I got a letter demanding an apology. You won't believe from whom. The words hung in my mind as I sat in my office that evening, mid-January, the campus settling into a post-lecture hush surrounded by the quiet order of a life I'd built on reason and patience. My name's Thomas, 40, biologist, university lecturer, a man who lives by evidence, not guesswork, who values principles over flash or quick temper. The desk lamp threw a narrow beam across a pile of undergrad essays on cellular division, my coffee sat cooling in a chipped mug, and the faint hum of the radiator broke the stillness. I'd been grading for hours, calm, methodical, when the email arrived, a sharp ping that cut through my focus, setting off a chain I hadn't expected. Home was a short drive away, a modest flat near the university, 2 bedrooms lined with bookshelves, a space Rachel and I had shared for 9 years. She wasn't there, had left that morning with a brisk, individual consultations today, students need the time, her voice light as she pulled on her coat. Rachel, 36, lecturer in literature, moved through life like she was born to be noticed, sociable, clever, always seeking the next audience to charm with her wit. She'd been gone since noon, hair pinned up, a new scarf I didn't recognize draped over her shoulders, her exit swift as she waved, "Back late, don't wait up." I came straight to the office after my last class, settled in with my work, coffee poured, the flat's quiet a routine I'd long stopped questioning. The email wasn't from a student, not one of mine, anyway, but from Mark Hensley, a junior admin in the literature department, a name I vaguely knew from faculty meetings. Subject, conduct concern, it read formal, clipped, a tone that didn't fit the usual campus chatter. I opened it, calm, steady, sipped my coffee, expecting a mix-up, a petty complaint. Instead, it hit, "Professor, your recent comments at the alumni event were out of line. I demand an apology for the implication, or I'll take this to the dean." Comments? Implication? I smirked, ironic, dry, set the mug down, my mind sifting through the fog of that night 3 weeks back. The alumni event, lecture hall packed, voices buzzing, had been a blur of handshakes and small talk. Rachel had been there, working the room, her laugh sharp as she mingled. I'd stood near the edge, coffee in hand, nodding to old colleagues, when a young man approached, handshake firm, voice too casual. "Good to meet Rachel's other half, she talks about you plenty." Adam, her student, 23, bright-eyed, eager, his tone familiar, her reaction swift as she'd cut in, "Adam," mingled, "Thomas is swamped." I'd said something light, offhand, "She's the star here, I just keep the lights on." Mark must have overheard, twisted it, took it personal. I'd filed it then, Rachel's flinch, Adam's ease, but now, this letter, this demand, tugged at a thread I hadn't pulled. I leaned back, chair creaking, coffee cooling, my thoughts steady, not loud, just sure. Rachel had been off, not a break, just a shift, a pattern I tracked like a scientist noting anomalies. Her consultations had grown weekly now, not monthly, her returns later, her excuses tighter. She'd come home, eyes bright, voice quick, saying, "Students are pushing hard this term, can't keep up." I'd nodded, calm, analytical, thought it was her job, her spark, not mine to probe. Then, poetry. She'd started reading it aloud, Frost, Keats, lines I didn't know, her voice clear, her gaze drifting, a habit she'd never had with me. Refreshing my lectures, she'd say, quick, casual, her smile tight when I'd ask. I'd let it slide, patient Thomas, steady Thomas, figured it was her world, not a sign. The admin's letter sat there, petty, absurd, out of line, a nudge I didn't need, but took. Mark's bluster wasn't the point, it was Rachel, Adam, that moment at the event, a spark I'd test. She'd mentioned him, her star, more than once, bright kid, best in my class, writes like he's lived twice. She'd say it over meals or late talks, her smile quick, her tone warm, a detail I'd logged as pride, not a flag. But Mark's slip last week, casual, unthinking, had stuck, saw Professor Rachel at the cafe Sunday, with that Adam guy, looked cozy. Sunday, she'd said, grading papers, home late, her scarf new then too, her voice brisk when she'd walked in. I'd nodded, calm, steady, filed it, waited. No haste, just a quiet resolve, a puzzle I'd solved my way. I stood, coffee cold, walked to the window, campus dark beyond, lecture hall silent, lights faint in the distance. Rachel craved attention, always had, thought it kept her sharp, alive, a need I'd assumed she'd balanced with me. 9 years, shared classes, quiet nights, a life I'd kept steady, hadn't held her, not when youth beckoned, not when Adam's eager gaze fed her thrill. I didn't flinch, just turned, walked back to the desk, pulled a notebook, pen in hand, the plan forming clear. I'd face him first, not her, let him trip, let her stew. The university was her stage, my lab too, and I'd turn it, not loud, just precise, a move she'd never predict. Mark's letter, demanding, blind, was a nudge, a spark I'd use later, a test I'd pass my way. Mark's email, demanding an apology for a vague slight, sat unanswered in my inbox, a petty flare I'd let smolder while I turned my focus elsewhere. I'd spent the week since mid-January, the campus thawing into a damp chill, watching Rachel's patterns like a biologist tracking a specimen's habits. She'd been out again that morning, Friday, her voice clipped as she left, consultations, busy day, her coat pulled tight, her new scarf bright against the gray. I'd nodded to come, steady watched her go, her steps quick, her hum faint as the flat's door clicked shut. The letter wasn't the key not yet, but it had nudged me, sharpened my lens, and now I test what I'd begun to suspect. Rachel's shifts had been subtle data points I'd logged over weeks, not months. Her individual consultations had crept up weekly, sometimes twice, her returns later, her excuses leaner. She'd come home eyes sharp, voice brisk, saying, "Students need more this term, can't keep up." I'd nodded, analytical, patient, thought it was her workload, her spark, not mine to question. Then, poetry. She'd started reciting it, Frost, Keats, lines I didn't know over dinner or late talks, her voice clear, her gaze drifting past me, a habit she'd never had in our 9 years. Just refreshing my lectures, she'd say, quick, casual, her smile tight when I'd ask more. I'd let it slide, steady Thomas, filed it as her quirk, not a signal. Friday afternoon, I acted, not loud, just precise, left the office early, drove downtown, campus fading behind me. Rachel's consultations were vague, her schedule loose, her office hours public but flexible. I didn't call, just parked near the arts building, her domain, and walked, steady, not rushed. The quad was quiet, students gone for the weekend, lecture halls dark, lights faint in the distance. Her office was on the second floor, door ajar, light spilling out but empty when I glanced in, papers stacked, a chair pushed back. I didn't linger, just moved, headed for the cafe Mark had named, a spot off campus, popular with her crowd. The cafe buzzed, students at tables, voices overlapping. I took a seat near the window, coffee ordered, black, my view clear. She wasn't there, not yet, but I waited, calm, patient, a scientist testing a hypothesis. An hour passed, coffee cooling, when she walked in, not alone. Adam, 23, tall, lean, moved beside her, his stride easy, her laugh sharp as they took a table near the back. She leaned in close, casual, her hand brushing his as she spoke, his nod quick, eager. I didn't move, just watched, my face blank, always blank, the scene clear, no guesswork needed. They didn't see me, didn't look, just sat, her voice low, his eyes fixed on her, a rhythm I'd missed until now. She dressed sharp, new scarf, coat open, a look she hadn't worn home, a signal I'd overlooked. I didn't approach, didn't need to, just sipped, let it sink, let it settle. The cafe faded, voices a hum, my mind steady, not loud, just sure. Rachel's smart, attention-hungry, wanted youth, a rush to feel desired, a stage I'd stopped offering. Adam, young, naive, fit her game, a student too hooked to see her play. Monday, I dug deeper, not rushed, just thorough, back in my office, grading done, coffee fresh. Rachel had left early again, consultations, her scarf swapped for another, her hum soft as she'd gone. I'd nodded, calm, steady, waited, then acted. Her schedule, posted online, showed office hours, but gaps, loose slots she'd filled with meetings. I called her assistant casual, like, Rachel free this afternoon? Answer, left at 2, said she'd be back tomorrow. 2 hours before her usual return, her busy day a lie I'd logged. I hung up, steady, sure, the pattern stacking, not a hunch, a fact. Tuesday, I watched, not close, just there, parked near the arts building again, her car gone by 3. She'd said faculty meeting, home late, her voice quick that morning. I drove downtown, cafe again, found her there, Adam beside her, her laugh sharp, his hand near hers. I didn't stay, just noted, left, the truth clear, no doubt left. Wednesday, Mark again, seminar break, he slipped it, casual, unthinking, Professor Rachel's always with that Adam guy, saw them at the cafe last night, looked like a date. Last night, she'd said, department dinner, home past 10, her eyes bright, her scarf new again. I nodded to come, steady, good to know, I said, voice evened, my mind sharp, the case closed. No scene, not yet, just a shift, a plan forming slow. Confusion hit first, brief, quiet, then irritation, a flicker I tamped down, replaced by a calm intent, a game I'd play my way. I stood at coffee cold, walked to the window, campus dark, my reflection faint in the glass. Rachel, cunning, sociable, wanted youth, a thrill I'd stopped feeding, a need I'd missed. Adam, ambitious, blind, thought it was love, not her whim, a pawn I'd move first. I didn't flinch, just turned, pulled a notebook, pen in hand, the next step set. I'd face him, not her, let him falter, let her stew. The university, her stage, my lab, would turn, not loud, just precise, a truth I'd shape steady, a lesson she'd learn slow. The library was quiet midweek, the kind of hush that settled over the stacks when most students had cleared out for the day. I stood near the biology section lecturer, notebook in hand, my plan locked steady after weeks of watching Rachel's drift. Adam Grayson, 23, her student, her star, sat at a table nearby, bent over a book, oblivious to the shift I'd set in motion. I'd seen him with her, cafe, twice, her laugh sharp, his gaze fixed, a pattern I'd confirmed with Mark's slip, looked like a date. Today, I'd test it, not her, not yet, him first, a move she'd never see coming, a step I'd take home and sure. I tracked him, discreet, precise, knew his schedule from the literature department's roster, open to faculty. Wednesday, late afternoon, he'd be here, prepping for Rachel's class, a habit she'd bragged about, Adam's diligent, always ahead. I walked over slow, steady, my coat draped over one arm, my voice even as I stopped by his table. Adam Grayson? He looked up, quick, casual, his face open, then tightening as he registered me. Yeah, Professor. His tone hung uncertain, familiar, a thread I'd pull. Thomas, I said, calm, clear, set my notebook down, took the chair across. Rachel's husband met you at the alumni event. His eyes flicked, sharp, brief, then steadied, his smile thin. Right, good to see you again. Too easy, too smooth a dodge I'd expected. I leaned back, voice low, ironic, good to see you too, outside the cafe, I mean. His pen stopped, mid-word, his breath short, his face blank for a beat, then shifting. Cafe, he said, quick, testing, his hands steadying on the book. I nodded to calm, steady, my gaze fixed, not loud, just sure. Sunday, last week too. You and Rachel, close, cozy, as Mark put it. His jaw tightened, eyes darting, his voice low, fast. Mark? Look, I don't know what your eye cut in voice even, cutting, don't. I've seen it, twice. Heard it, her consultations, your name, too often. She's my wife, Adam, 9 years. You didn't know? His breath caught, sharp, quick, his face paling, his hands dropping. Wife, she didn't, she said, he stopped, swallowed, his voice thin. She said it was over, separated, months ago. Separated, her lie, his hook, a twist I'd half-guessed, a play I'd unravel. I smirked, dry, faint, voice steady. Over? No, home every night, scarf new, stories tight. You're her thrill, her star, not her life. His eyes widened at shock, then doubt, his voice breaking, low. Thrill? She told me it was real, said you didn't, he paused, breath unsteady, his hands clenching. Didn't what? I said, calm, sharp, care? Notice? I noticed, Sunday, Tuesday, her poetry, your dates. You're the one who didn't see. He leaned back, slow, stiff, his face shifting, realization creeping in, his voice soft, frayed. Dates, she said, consultations, work, said I was, he stopped, eyes on the table, his hands loosening. Special, I said, ironic, even her best writes like he's lived twice. She's good, smart, knows what you need to hear. He flinched, sharp, quick, his voice low. She used me? All this, her idea, her calls, I thought, his breath hitched anger, then nothing, his eyes lifting, steady now. You're sure, 9 years? 9, I said, calm, final, steady, until you. She wanted youth, desire, you gave it. I'm ending it, my way. He stared, breath short, then nodded, slow, his voice flat. Ending how? Her, what are you, I leaned in, voice low, steady, you'll see, stay out, or don't. Your call. He shook his head, quick, unsteady, I'm out, didn't know, out, his crack, his twist, upon waking up, a move I'd use. I stood, notebook in hand, voice even. Good, keep it that way. I walked off calm, steady, the library silent, his realization hers to face soon. Thursday night, she came home past 9, coat open, scarf new again, her voice bright, long day, students pushing hard. I stood, kitchen counter between, coffee in hand, my tone steady. Adam pushing too? She froze, just a beat, then smiled, tight. Adam? He's fine, bright kid, why? I set the mug down, met her gaze, voice calm, cutting. Bright cozy, Mark said, cafe, Sunday, Tuesday. I saw I talked to him today. Her face shifted, panic, quick, her hands gripping her bag, her voice fast. Talked, what did he, Thomas, it's not. Don't, I said, calm, clear, consultations, poetry, him, weeks. He didn't know, thought you were free, until I told him. Her breath quickened, eyes wide, her voice rising, thin. Told him he's just work, that's all. I stepped closer, voice low, steady, work, dates, your thrill? He's out, quit, knows you used him. 9 years, Rachel, done. Her jaw dropped, panic flaring, her voice breaking. Used, he said, Thomas, listen, it's not, he's confused. Confused, I said, ironic, sharp, like me, at first? No, I saw, heard, Mark, cafe, him. You wanted youth, he gave it, now he's gone. She stepped back, breath short, her eyes darting, her voice fast. Gone, he, what did you do? I smirked, faint, real voice steady. Talked, showed him, truth. He's young, learned quick, you're next. Her hands shook, panic, then defiance, her voice low. Next, you can't, I didn't. You did, I said, calm, final, chose, hit it, lost it. Library today, he's done, you'll see. She stared, a breath unsteady, then turned, bag dropped, her voice thin. You didn't, he's just, she stopped, eyes on me, panic fraying, her charm dust. I turned, coffee cold, voice even. He's out, you're caught, think it over. She grabbed her bag, stepped stiff, left, door clicking shut, the flat silent, her game tilting, my move set. Adam's break, her use, her lie, a twist I'd wield, a truth she'd face slow. I stood, kitchen still, the plan steady, not loud, just sure. Rachel's panic lingered in the flat silence, her footsteps fading after Thursday's confrontation, her bag dropped then snatched as she'd fled. Adam's retreat, his realization she'd used him, had cracked her game, but I wasn't done. She'd built this, her thrill, her youth chase, and I'd dismantle it, not loud, just precise, a lesson she'd learned too late. The university, her stage, my lab, would turn, and she'd lose what she'd staked, piece by steady piece. Friday morning, I acted, not rushed, just deliberate, sat at my office desk, campus quiet before the day's hum. Rachel hadn't come home, texted late, staying with a friend, needs space, her tone short, her dodge clear. I'd nodded, to no one, filed it, moved on. I pulled my laptop, calm, steady, opened an anonymous email, university guest account, untraceable. The administration's ethics board, formal, rigid, loomed as my lever, a body Rachel feared, her reputation their currency. I typed voice even in my head, kept it plain, factual, literature lecturer Rachel Ellis engages in unethical relations with student Adam Grayson, ongoing, off-campus, witnessed. No embellishment, just dates, cafe mentions, her consultations, a report, not a rant, a scientist's log. I sent it, addressed to the dean, CC'd to compliance, closed the laptop, sipped my coffee, the move set, not loud, just sure. Monday, it landed, quiet, swift, the campus buzzing by noon with whispers I didn't start, just watched. Rachel's office, second floor, arts building, was dark when I passed, her assistant gone, her schedule blanked online. I taught my class, steady, calm, students chatting as they left, heard Professor Ellis is out, some mess with a student. I nodded to calm, ironic, news travels fast, my voice even, my face blank, always blank. Mark, my undergrad, lingered after, voice low, it's true, Adam's off her course, kicked out yesterday. Kicked out, his cost, her ripple, a thread I'd pulled, a fall I'd shaped. Tuesday, she called, midday, her voice sharp, unsteady, Thomas, what did you do? I stood, office window open, campus gray, coffee in hand, my tone steady. Do? I said, calm, cutting, you did it, chose him, hit it. I showed them. Her breath quickened, panic flaring, her voice rising. Showed at the dean ethics board, my job's gone, fired this morning, Adam's out, Thomas, why, I cut in, voice low, ironic, why? 9 years, your thrill, his youth, your stage. You lost, job, him, them, your move. Her voice broke fast, thin. You lost you sent it, anonymous, I know. No, I said to calm, final good proofs there, cafe, dates, him. You played, he quit, you fell. She gasped, sharp, quick, her voice fraying. Fell. Adams gone? He didn't. I smirked, faint, real voice steady. Gone. Blocked you Monday, after they called him in. He's young, learned, you're alone. Her breath hitched, panic, then despair, her voice low. Alone, my career to Thomas, it was a mistake, please, mistake, her plea, her dodge, a lie I'd expected, a threat I'd cut. Please, I said, ironic, sharp, too late, your star's out, your stage dark. Think it over. She hung up, silence back, her plea dust, her world ash. Wednesday, it spread, faculty email, official, Professor Ellis terminated, conduct breach effective immediately. Students whispered, halls alive, Adams' name gone from rosters, his exit swift, her fall complete. I taught, calm, steady, heard it filter, she's done, in two, ethics got them. Mark nodded, quiet, sure, heard he left, didn't fight, just gone. Thursday, she came, flat door open, valise in hand, her scarf old now, her eyes red. Thomas, you did this, all of it? I stood, kitchen counter between, coffee fresh, my tone even. You did, chose, hid, lost. Letter was mine, truth was yours. Her face twisted, despair, then plea, her voice low. Truth, my job, reputation, Adam, he's gone to Thomas, it was a mistake, please, I set the mug down, voice steady, cutting, mistake, weeks, him, your youth? He's out, job's gone, friends next, your call. She stepped back, breath short, her eyes wide. Friends, gone, he didn't, I thought, she stopped, a voice thin, her hands trembling. Thought, I said to calm, final, he'd stay, your star, your thrill? He ran, first chance, knew you used him. Her laugh broke, bitter, faint, her voice soft. Used, he said to Thomas, you, why, I turned, coffee cold, voice steady. Why? 9 years, you chose, lost it. Deal with it. She grabbed her valise, steps slow, left, door clicking shut, the flat silent, her world stripped, my move done. Adam's exit, her loss, her stage dark, a reckoning I'd shaped steady. I stood, kitchen still, the plan complete, not loud, just sure. I'd stripped the flat to its bones, boxes stacked by the door, bookshelves half bare, a quiet shift I'd set in motion after Rachel's world collapsed. It was late January, a Friday evening, the campus hushed beyond the windows as I returned from my office, the day's lectures done. Rachel hadn't been back since Thursday, her job gone, her reputation ash, Adam vanished, her text about staying with a friend left unanswered, her life unraveling while I'd filed divorce papers, packed my things, and lined up a new gig in another city. A faint knock broke the stillness, her return I'd seen coming, her plea I'd shut down. I opened the door with a calm hand, and there she stood, valise clutched tight, her scarf faded, her eyes red, her face drawn from strain. At 36, she looked smaller, her sociable spark dimmed, her charm worn to a threadbare plea. She stepped in slowly, her gait unsteady, her gaze sweeping over the boxes and empty walls, taking in the change with a visible flinch. I watched from the kitchen doorway, coffee mug warm in my grip, my resolve firm, she'd come to beg, a move I'd predicted, a play I'd end. Her eyes flicked up briefly, meeting mine with a spark of panic, then fell again, her hands trembling as she sat. I stayed put, my face blank, always blank, my thoughts sharp with irony. She'd come to fix what she'd broken, a futile swing at a game long over. I'd filed for divorce Monday, papers signed, my new job at a top university in another city set, steps I'd taken without a second thought, a path she'd never sway. She shifted, her shoulders tensing as she leaned forward slightly, her breath quickening, her eyes darting over the boxes again. I watched, my stance steady, my mind replaying her lies, consultations stretched into weeks, poetry read with a distant look, Adam's name slipping out too often with a warmth she'd never justified. The ethics board's verdict, swift, final, had erased her job, her standing, her stage, leaving her alone, her plea now a ghost of her old cunning. Her hands tightened on the table, her frame sinking as reality bore down, her career dead, her student lost, her social circle mute. I sipped my coffee, the warmth fading, my calm intact as I tracked her collapse. The letter I'd sent, precise and anonymous, had hit its target, her firing confirmed Wednesday, Adam's exit sealed Tuesday. Campus talk had spread to students noting her absence, Mark's quiet nod about Adam leaving, her world pulled apart thread by steady thread, a lesson I taught without raising my voice. She rose slowly, her valise gripped hard, her steps faltering as she edged toward the door, then paused, her gaze swinging back to me, wide and pleading. I set my mug down, my movements measured, my thoughts edged with a dry twist. She'd come to rewrite her choices, the last card I'd foreseen and trumped. Her desperation showed, her eyes wet, her breath short, yet I felt nothing, no tug, just a steady push away, a resolve sharpened by her betrayal. I'd faced Adam, watched him crack, then turned her lie into a truth the university couldn't dodge, her job gone, her lover out, her stage dark. She lingered by the door, her posture wilting, her hand on the valise shaking as she faced me, her plea clear in her stance. I walked to the hall, my pace even, my mind calm, divorce filed, move planned, new life ready, details she'd grasped too late, a twist I'd kept close. She'd lost her career to the ethics board, her reputation to whispers, Adam to his own awakening, her bid to feel young had left her stranded, her charm spent, her game finished. I'd moved on, Monday's papers, a new city's offer, leaving no space for her return, no chance for her presence to shift me. Her shoulders dropped further, her gaze falling to the floor, her breath ragged as she took in the end, my departure set, her world bare. I stood by the door, coffee cold now, my calm unwavering. She'd come broken, seeking a way back, a restart I'd never allow. 9 years, her choice, her thrill, had ended in her loss, a truth she'd face alone, a lesson I'd delivered without haste. She turned, slow, defeated, valise in hand, her steps fading as she crossed the threshold, the door clicking shut behind her, the flat silent again, her plea unanswered, my path forward firm. I stayed in the kitchen, the stillness settling, my coffee untouched, my resolve intact, a chapter closed, a life reshaped, steady and sure. I left the flat behind, boxes shipped, keys handed over, a quiet exit from a life I'd dismantled with precision. Early February stretched cold and gray beyond the train window as I headed north, my new city waiting, a fresh slate I'd carved out after Rachel's collapse. I'd stood in that kitchen one last time, coffee brewing, her valise gone, watching her fade through the door, her plea unanswered, my resolve steady. Now, I sit in a new office, Thomas as biologist, lecturer, D. Esque bare save for a mug and a stack of journals, the hum of a different campus settling around me, a rhythm I've shaped, not inherited. The move came fast, divorce filed Monday, papers signed by Wednesday, my new post at a top-tier university confirmed by week's end. I'd packed light books, clothes, a few notes, left the flats echoes for her to haunt, if she dared. The new place sits close to campus, a small apartment, 1 bedroom, shelves I've started filling, windows framing a city I don't yet know. I wake early, coffee black, no rush, stand by the glass, watching streets stir below, lights blinking in the dawn, a pulse I observe, not chase. The flat simplicity suits me, walls clean, space open, a base I've claimed, steady in mine. Work fills my days, lectures sharper now, research projects stacking, students keen in a way I hadn't seen before. I teach calm, steady, my voice even as I pace the hall, slides clicking through cell cycles, questions met with answers I've honed. The department buzzes, colleagues nodding in passing, my name tied to a grant I've launched, a study on microbial adaptation I'd pitched and won. I've shifted, less trusting, more certain, my patience tempered with a quiet edge, a clarity I'd earned through her game. The campus sprawls, labs bright, halls alive, a stage I command, not share, a shift she'd never grasp. The flat grows, slow, sure, plants on the sill, green curling in pots, a small one I tend. I cook, simple meals, fish roasting, radio low, a rhythm I've built, not borrowed. Friends from the old life few, steady message now and then, their notes brief, no questions about her, no gaps to fill. I've let them drift, my circle tight, my focus mine, a life I paired to what holds, not what clings. One night late, unplanned, I cross paths with a colleague, mid-30s, sharp, a botanist, over coffee at a campus cafe, her presence easy, her laugh light. We talk plants, research, nothing deep, her stride matching mine as we leave, a spark I note, not chase. I'm not seeking, not yet, just here, open, a chance I'll take if it fits. Work hums, projects growing, a paper pending, my name gaining weight, my days steady, not rushed. The apartment's mine, plans thriving, space clear, a base I'll keep, tweak, live in, no one else needed, not now, just me, a life I've forged, not salvaged. I've changed, sharper, wiser, less quick to trust, more sure of my ground, a man who sees through the noise, who stands steady when it fades. The train's hum fades in memory, my new city sharpens, its edges mine to map. Work offers more grants, talks, a rhythm I lean into, steady, sure. I walk campus paths, city streets, my pace even, my mind clear, a life I've claimed, not borrowed. I stand, office window open, coffee cooling, campus waking below, light soft in the dawn. Satisfaction sits, quiet, deep, not loud, not sharp, just there, a calm I've earned, a ground I've taken. I've learned youth isn't the edge she thought, not when experience cuts deeper, a truth she'd overlooked, a lesson I've lived. Those who think youth holds the advantage forget experience always claims it's due.